Hello and welcome to this special broadcast on Money Control with me, Stacy Periera. Well, even though we come to digest that World Cup loss against Australia, there is much to cheer for our cricketers. Yes, we were the tournament favourites, having won 10 out of 10 of those games just before that final. And the loss really won't dampen the number of deals and endorsements that are coming by, especially for these cricketers. In fact, sports marketing companies are expecting endorsement values for Indian cricketers to increase by at least 20 to 40%. And for top performers like Kohli or Mohammad Shami, these endorsement values could almost double from here on. So let's discuss about brands and how cricket as a whole in a country that is really worships it, how does this really work for our cricketers, and how now brands are likely to be cozying up with these cricketers. Joining me to understand all of this is Amrit Mathur, the former general manager of BCCI as well as COO of Delhi Daredevils, as well as Dilip Cherian, who is an image guru. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for giving us your time and speaking with us here at Money Control. First, I'll come to Dilip and ask you exactly. India has been quite dominant this whole World Cup. We saw a lot of hopes were really pinned on that game. Pretty much thought we're going to keep that cup here. Players played to perfection. But do you think now it is for brands, now that we didn't win that final and keep that cup, are brands really going to have that rethink kind of moment if they have to? Or do you think cricketers can really help brands build those connections, because that's what they've done through these 45 days of the tournament?
Stacy, the key thing here is that there's going to be a lot more cricket coming up. So companies who have stuff which is in abeyance need the brand endorsements that they can get now. What does the loss mean? The loss only means that the escalation in terms of the kinds of rates that these cricketers would demand will probably increase at a slower pace. If they had won, it would have gone stratospheric. But for the moment, there will be growth, but not at the same levels that you could have expected had there been that big win which we were hoping for.
Mr. Mathur, we've already seen what IPL has done for cricket and also the cricketers. You know, when we see those auction rounds and all of them getting such highly paid, do you think this is also a good opportunity for some of the not so well-known cricketers to actually put their price out there and, you know, show when it comes to brands and endorsements? Is this a nice way or a nice platform now for them?
Listen, I'll just first take up from what Dilip said. There will be growth because there's a lot of cricket coming ahead. So there will be a normal, natural kind of increase in prices of the top cricketers. See, the top cricketers are attractive because they are visible, they are successful, and they have a very strong social media presence. But at the same time, I don't think that every cricketer or many cricketers are very good in this game, because if you look at it, it's only Virat, Rohit, Shubman Gill, and KL Rahul who actually occupy the endorsement space. From the team that's played in the World Cup recently, I don't think Shami has any endorsement. Kuldeep Yadav doesn't have an endorsement. Siraj doesn't have an endorsement. And the others have some peripheral deals. So actually the entire market is cornered by this top four. And I think that's how it's going to be. Even if you look at the test players, Rahane, Pujara, are nowhere in this game. So while the top cricketers like Virat and Rohit will continue to be in demand, they're successful, they have tremendous reach and ability to connect with consumers, I think it's a misconception that every cricketer has got lots of endorsements or he's very attractive to people in this business.
Basically, we are saying that it is pretty much a rule of roost where only the top four or the top five, the better performers, are the ones who are going to be getting or seeing their brand value also increase. But like you were pointing out, there were reports recently of how Mohammad Shami and how he's had such a spectacular tournament, and which is why his brand value is also almost double now, coming in, charging anywhere close to 1 crore rupees. So yeah.
He doesn't have an endorsement. I don't know what we are talking about. I don't know what increase are we anticipating. Shami doesn't have a single contract or endorsement deal. Neither does Kuldeep Yadav, neither does Siraj. Jadeja has some peripheral deal. Shreyas Iyer has a peripheral deal. So it's Ashwin has practically nothing.
Right.
I said Pujara Rehane. So basically, the space is cornered and controlled by the top 4 or 5, and I think that's how it's going to remain.
Right. Mr. Cherian, do you think that it would give some space for the others also now that they've had a spectacular tournament, or do you think brands are very conservative in that sense? So what are they really looking at, just, or they're just going by, like how Mr. Mathur was pointing out, just their social media presence, which is what they're getting these endorsements based on?
I think Amrit is quite right. It is the 80-20 rule again. 20% of the cricketers, in fact, maybe less than them, are actually going to garner the maximum of the market. Also remember that we are heading into election year. So for half the next year, brands are going to be edged out of the market. So I hope to see clever brands use endorsements to actually gain some market share and gain some eyeballs, which they could, given the cricket season that's ahead. And I hope that they use new players. Will they? That question is still out for a walk. Brands tend to be conservative, but the great thing is that India has a plethora of brands, and at the right price, I'm hoping that they will pick up new players who don't actually charge the kind of rates that they're talking about.
Right. So then can we say that these sports marketing companies are simply creating a hype? Because if you look at them, they're talking about seeing surges in these endorsement deals to anywhere close to 20 to 40%. They may be talking about a Virat Kohli or even others under them, but it could be for anyone for that matter. We're talking about a sports person being a brand ambassador, and that's what we're equating it to right now. Of course, the cricketers make the biggest chunk of this. Almost 85% of these endorsement deals come from cricket and not the other sports. Mr. Mathur, yeah, go ahead.
No, as Dilip pointed out, cricketers are always more attractive than other sportsmen because they are more visible. There's more cricket on television. They are, seen practically through the year. And don't forget that we have another World Cup coming up in 6 months' time, in June, the T20 World Cup. So people like Virat, Rohit, Shubman Gill, the top players will be in demand, and maybe in greater demand, because as the World Cup comes closer, there'll be more hype, more attention, more sort of craze about cricket. So the top people will always benefit from that. But at the same time, there will be, I think, scope in the market for lesser known players with maybe at lower prices to also break through and get deals. So while cricket is the predominant sport and the most popular, so obviously their top performers have a better market rate. We have people like Neeraj Chopra, Sindhu, other sports persons who also have a presence in the endorsement market, and maybe at lower rates. But this entire thing of sportsmen as commercially viable people to endorse product is enlarging. It's going beyond cricket. You have Mary Kom, you've got other medal winners of the Olympics and Commonwealth Games, Asian Games, who are making a mark. So cricket obviously predominant and obviously cornered by the Virat Kohlis and the Rohit Sharmas, but it's an expanding market, and with new products and there are more opportunities for others to also get into this game.
Right. So let's look at the scenario where India had won the World Cup. Do you think these endorsement fees would have really hit the roof then and seen a bigger jump than what we're talking about right now, Mr. Cherian?
Yes, certainly I would see that having happened. But as I said, it'll bring a little bit of semblance of reality to the market. And I think that's important. Also, don't forget that Virat Kohli has just announced his own sports marketing organization.
Right.
So you're seeing the market change, and you will find that each of these companies who are in the game, who have to combine hype with hope, have to also make sure that they look for new people to represent and new companies to seek endorsement with.
Right. In fact, I was just going to come to that point, and maybe Mr. Mathur could expand on it, because we see a lot of these cricketers under certain banners of these management companies that really, and most of them cluster up and really go out. So you're seeing pretty much the same brands approaching the sports management company, and that's how those endorsements are then unfolded. So now that there are more players getting into the market, is there chance for then the lesser known players to actually have a say and have their brand presence out there?
Certainly. I think when you're working with a very efficient agency or a marketing setup, they will find you, clients. And it also depends on the image you have, because a sportsman is also restricted. There are only certain categories he can do. It also depends on how popular he is. So a Virat or a Rohit Sharma can perhaps, be attractive to a lot of products and a lot of brands. But a newcomer coming in, say like something like Ishan Kishan or maybe a Siraj, I think it's very limited. And I think he needs that assistance of a good marketing agency or a setup to make a breakthrough.
Right. And in fact, in no other profession other than cricket have we seen this much money being put in, whether it comes to just matches or the players, and how this whole thing is viewed as a whole. So are we looking at now, because we've lost, or not just lost, but the cricketing as an asset class, is it grossly inflated, and which is why, we are seeing such high prices for these cricketers? Both of you can take either one. Mr. Cherian can go first.
Okay, I would say that yes, I see this as a restricted market in which only a few big players are dipping their feet into. That's not good for the game, not good for the players. I hope that that scenario changes. As more companies come into the game, you will find that the shopping prices will also be changing, which will be good for the game and good for a lot more players.
Right.
That's important.
Mr. Mathur, would you want to add to that? Especially, we know we are going to see the auction for IPL also starting pretty soon. So, how much is going to change? Does it change the fate of the squad that was part of it, and also the players that missed out? How are they going to be looking, and how brands going to be looking at them?
Now, listen, the IPL contracts are valid for 3 years, and then the players who played the World Cup have long-term contracts with IPL teams. So their prices within the IPL are not going to change. And only when the next auction comes up, it will depend on how they're performing at that time, and the market will decide, what money they merit. But I agree with Dilip that the top guys will always make top dollar. So I don't think, whether it's Virat or Rohit, if we had won the World Cup, obviously the prices would have gone up. Not won the World Cup, the prices are not going to come down. So they are sort of, stable, proven people in terms of endorsements. As I said, they've got huge social media presence. They are seen to be successful. They are popular. They keep performing. And don't forget, they will keep coming on television because cricket is played throughout the year. Right. 6 months time there's another World Cup. There'll be again hype around the World Cup. So obviously the top people will benefit most from that hype.
Right. So I guess we can come to that conclusion then, that the top players are going to be the ones getting the top dollars. But of course, this is also a chance for brands now to see how they can identify with these players, where they see that placement really viable, and also bring in the lesser known ones to then make them more popular. I think we can summarize this. Yes, Mr. Mathur, go ahead.
It's said, it's like a cliche that cricket is the only recession-proof thing in India, in the economy. Similarly, when it comes to the top players, Virat or Rohit, they're also recession-proof when it comes to the endorsement game.
Right. I think we could agree with that, because Virat clearly has at one point, more than 40 brands that he was endorsing. Clearly the top on that list of endorsement values when it comes to at least cricketers for that matter here in India. But it was really nice chatting with both of you, Mr. Cherian as well as Mr. Amrit Mathur, there giving us their perspective on what really, we saw a lot of batting and bowling, and now we're going to see a lot of branding that is going to take place, especially for our cricketers, and we hope that it is good and we get to see more of them on the screen like we do when we see them on the pitch as well. Well, with that, we can sum up with that. It's a wrap on this chat, but thanks so much for tuning in.